This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. This is our first week together after Yom Tovim. So hold on to your socks for really an amazing topic. And this year is not for the faint-hearted. So if you're not feeling that well, so we invite you back for next week. But you got to really brace yourself for today's topic. So we begin with the first pasuk in the Parsha. Eila toldos Noach. These are the progeny, the generations of Noach. Noach is Tzadik. Noach was a righteous man. Tamim haya b'dayrosav. He was complete in his generations. Esho Elokim hasalach Noach. Noach walked with God. First question is, Eila toldos Noach. Noach. Why does it say his name twice? I got it. I got that. You said his name is Noach. I heard you. What? This is for the hard of hearing this pasuk? Eila told us Noach. What? Noach. I got his name. I think I could remember that. Let's get past that. Why in the world would the Torah say his name two times? Eila told us Noach. Should say Ish Tzadik Tamim Haya B'day Roisav. Why would the Torah say Eila toldos Noach? Noach ish Tzadik. Oh, while we're at it, I can say it a third time. What are we doing here? The Torah is prime real estate. Every letter is expensive. Every word is counted. Why would the Torah repeat his name two times? Then we say ish Tzadik tamim haya b'dayrosav, in his generations. I mean, you can only live in one generation. It should say tamim haya b'dayroi. What does the word b'dayrosav mean? In his right, are there any Jewish people here that might know what that word means? B'dayrosav means his generations. Why would the Torah say that? It's not true. It's not factual. Okay. Then, interestingly, the Torah calls him a tzaddik. Who is a tzaddik in the Chumash? Who is called a tzaddik in the Chumash? The answer is nobody. There is nobody in the entire Chumash other than Noach called a tzaddik. Not Abraham, not Yitzchak, not Yaakov, not Moshe, not even Yosef. Nobody in the Chumash is called a tzaddik. So that's interesting. How do you become a tzaddik? What do you need to do? What do you have to do to become a tzaddik? Do you need to build a boat? Is that it? People who build boats, they're called tzaddik. Okay. Then, what's very difficult is the end of Bereshis. The end of Bereshis seems to contradict the beginning of Noach. Here, at the end of Bereshis, it says, "Vayemer Hashem." Hashem said, "Emcha es ha'adam." I will blot out a person. I will blot out man. By the way, I'll just tell you, free of charge, nothing to do with the Shiur, that somehow I always think that the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek is a mitzvah of Mahu Afata. It's a mitzvah of emulating Hashem. Say, emulating Hashem? Yeah. It has to be, because all the mitzvahs are mitzvahs of Mahu Afata. Learning Torah, the Ribbon Shalom is Malamed Talama Yisrael, all the mitzvahs of Chesed, and the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek as well. Because there are only two times in the Torah it says the word Emcha. By Amalek, Yimachai Emcha, and by the Mechia of mankind. In fact, the remez to Amalek is found right in those psukim. It says, Ki yetzer leva adam, rak, ra, kol, hayoim, is soifei tevois, Amalek. Ki yetzer leva adam, rak, ra, kol, hayoim, is soifei. Anyway, that's just a separate thought. The end. So Hashem says, Emches ha'adam, I'm going to wipe out man, Hashem barasi, me'apnei adama, me'adam, ad behema, I'm getting very distracted, ad remes, v'yadoif hashamayim, ki nichamti ki asisim, because I regret what I did. Okay, so here, Ribbon Shalom saying, I'm going to wipe out mankind, but Noach, v'Noach matzachein b'einei Hashem. Noach, I don't know, I like him, I like his tie, right? There's something about him that finds favor in my eyes. Sometimes you're a teacher in a class, and some kid, he gets a 63. So it depends who the kid is. Some kids 63 and they fail. Other kids 63 and you stretch it. Why? I don't know why. So you take a liking to the kid. You figure out a way to pass him. That's what the mashmoi, so the pasuk v'noach matzachein b'einei Hashem is. And it's not only my way to read it. That's how the Gemara reads it. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Kufches, Tan Direi Rabbi Shmuel, Af al Noach nechtach gezardin. Really, the decree was sealed on Noach as well. Ela shematza chen b'nei Hashem, but he found favor in the eyes of Hashem. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Nichamti ki asisim. I regret what I did that I created man. But v'Noach matza chen b'nei Hashem. So the Gemara is saying that Noach deserved to be blotted out, just like the rest of mankind, but he had a special chen. What do you mean he had a special chen? The next pasuk is, he was a tzaddik, he's a tamim, he deserved it. Why would he need to find chen if he's a tzaddik? He's the only one who's a tzaddik in the generation. And this is a question that is raised in the Sefer Shvilei Pinchas on Parshas Noach. He says, Im Noach lo haya roi li notzel, if Noach was not worthy to be saved, and as Chazal tell us, I just want to point out, there are really two questions over here. One is, was he matzachein, or was he a tzaddik and a tamim? And on the other hand, if in fact he deserved to be destroyed with the rest of the generation, how is he matzachein? I understand if you're a teacher, okay, the kid is a zisik yingala, he's a cute kid, you like his personality, so he's matzachein. But with the Ribbon Shalom, isn't it black and white? I mean, the Rebbe Shalom dons a person. He looks at their mitzvahs. Doesn't the Gemara say in Rosh Hashanah? They're tzaddikim who have more mitzvahs than averos. They're risham who have more averos than mitzvahs. And then they're beinonim. What's this concept of matzachein be'inei Hashem? There's no shoichad to the Rebbe Shalom. There are no subjective factors to the Rebbe Shalom. What would it even mean to be matzachein? By the way, is there anyone else in Chumash who was matzachein? Who else in Chumash was matzachein?
11.
So that Noach was not the only person who was matzachein b'nei Hashem. We find that Yosef HaTzadik was matzachein. We find Moshe Rabbeinu was matzachein. But that's a concept. Well, Yosef was matzachein b'nei his Adain, or b'nei Adam. Moshe Rabbeinu we find was matzachein b'nei Hashem. So that's an interesting idea. What does it mean that Noach was matzachein be'enei Hashem? Okay. So far we have 4 questions. Number 1, why does the pasuk say Noach twice? Number 2, why does it say generations? Was he matzachein or was he a tzaddik? And finally, what does it mean to be matzachein? Okay, we move on. The Gemara Masechta Chulin talks about various people in the Torah, where they're alluded to in the Torah. So the Gemara asks, Mordechai min Torah minayin, and the Gemara says Mardarar, and the Targum says Mardachia, and Esther min Torah minayin, v'anoichi haster aster, and the Gemara says Haman min Torah minayin, Hamin ha'etz, right? Hamin ha'etz asher tzivisicha. By the way, there's a sefer Hatishbi of Rabbi Yehuda Bachor. So this past summer, we went to the Beis HaKvaros in Lida Island, where we tried to go to Rabbi Yehuda Bachor's kever. We got to the Beis HaKvaros, but it was locked, and the Italian who was guarding it needed to eat hot dogs, so he did not want to let us in. But Rabbi Yehuda Bachor wrote a sefer called Sefer Hatishbi, and he has a girsa, the Gemara, Haman min Torah minayin, Vayachil es Haman in Parshas B'Shalach. A different gersa in the Gemara. Interestingly, by the way, I'll point out like this. Somebody showed me he did like a search on the Chumash, and he found Clinton, and he found Obama, and there's no remez to Trump in the whole Chumash. So he said, does that mean that he's not going to be elected? I said, no, maybe that means he will be elected. You could ask him. My friend Ben Grossman. I said, I think that's a raya, he will be elected. Why? Because the Gemara asks Haman and Esther, and the Gemara doesn't ask Achashverosh min Torah minayin. Why? Because the king of the world is just a puppet in the hands of Hashem. He's not an entity. So there's no remez to him in the Torah. You don't need a remez. So, I would think if there was ever a leader that was doimet Achashverosh, the same way Achashverosh is not alluded to in the Torah, it could be that this individual is also, he's not alluded to in the Torah, but it doesn't mean he won't be elected. Anyway,
Time will tell.
I'm not commenting on the positive or negative, no political ramification. Okay. Anyway, the Gemara asks Moshe min Torah minayin. Moshe min Torah, from where do we know it? So the pasuk says, "B'shagam hu basar," even though he's flesh. So it says, what pasuk is that? At the end of Bereshis, pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem, la'yadayin ruchi va'adam le'olam." My spirit will no longer contend with man. B'shagam hu basar, even though he's flesh. V'hayu yamav, let his days be me'av esrim shana, 120 years.
Why would we say Torah Menayan if his name takes place 500 times?
Yeah, so that's got to be one of the strangest questions the Gemara ever asks. Moshe min Torah minayin? What do you mean Moshe min Torah minayin? Yeah, why don't you just open up the book? There's no name in Chumash that's mentioned more often than Moshe Rabbeinu. It says his name 613 times in the Chumash.
No, that was close.
What? By the way, they once asked Chaim Kanievsky. They said not true. He put in a computer search, and he found 614. Chaim says the computer's wrong. And they checked, and the Kachav, it says, Kol Baal Mashe Yadoi. Mashe is not Moshe. So anyway, but really, in fact, there's 613 times it says Moshe's name. So here Moshe's name appears 613 times, and the Gemara is asking, Moshe min Torah minayin? What's the remez to Moshe? What do you need a remez for? That's what it's saying, Hashem min Torah minayin. It says Hashem's name many times. So, and then what's the remez? The word b'shagam. How is b'shagam a remez to Moshe? It says Rashi Masechta Chulin, look at number 7. B'shagam b'gematria kamoi Moshe. The word b'shagam is Gematria Moshe. Uksiv sham, it says over there, v'hayu yamav me'av esrim shana, his days will be 120 years. In other words, what's the Gematria of b'shagam? Beis is 2, Shin is 300, Gimel is 3, Mem is 40, that's 345, and the Gematria of Moshe is 345. So b'shagam, 345, which is Moshe, v'hayu yamav me'av esrim shana, he'll live 120 years. Okay. It's a beautiful remez to Moshe Rabbeinu. However, why would you need a remez to Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu's name appears so many times. Elamai, the question is, where is there a remez to Moshe in Bereshis? Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you were writing the Torah and you wanted to be Merames to Moshe, why in the world would you be Merames to Moshe when Rebbeinu Shalom wants to destroy the world and destroy mankind? Why would this be the juncture where Moshe Rabbeinu is alluded to? Maybe, you can't pick a nicer place for Moshe Rabbeinu to be alluded to. Maybe when Avraham Avinu is feeding the Orchim, maybe at the Akedah, maybe when Yaakov Avinu, V'Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Ayolim, Remez LaMoshe. No. Where is there a remez to Moshe? Even though he's flesh. That's the remez to Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay. Then there's a Rashi, one of the most well-known Rashis in Chumash, and the more well-known something is, the less you think about it, because the more you take it for granted. That's a Yesod Gadol. The more famous something is, the less examined it is. This is a Rashi. I have such a kasha on this Rashi. I don't think I ever saw anyone ask this question, but I have a pella on the Rashi. Says Rashi, "B'tevasoi shel Moshe," by the teva of Moshe, al yedei shehayu hamayim tashim, because the water was calm. Daya b'chaymer b'bifnim v'zefes mibuchas. It was enough to have chaymer, mortar on the inside, and tar on the outside. But by Noach, where the water was very turbulent, it says v'chafarta oisam mibayis u'michutz ba'koifer. You should cover it on the inside and the outside with tar. Ve'oid, and another reason, kadei shelo yariach oisei tzadik reach ra shel zefes. So that tzadik does not smell the bad smell of tar. Avol kan, but here, mimnei choizek hamayim, because of the strength of the water, zafta mibayis u'michutz. So Rashi is obviously bothered by a kasha. Rashi wants to know. All of a sudden, Rashi is working for UPS, and he's a shipper. And Rashi has kashas on boxes. Rashi is sitting back in France, and he wants to know. I don't understand. When Noach made a ship bigger than the Titanic, they covered it on the inside and the outside with tar. And when Yocheved put Moshe Rabbeinu in the cardboard box that she got from Brach's, she didn't put tar on the inside. 1 second, Rashi. What? These are the only 2 boxes in history? Why does Rashi have a question? Yesterday I got something from Zappos and I didn't put tar on the inside. Yeah, but the teva was on the inside and the outside. Why in the world does Moshe Rabbeinu's little box got to do with the teva of Noach? All of a sudden it's a stira, that's a kasha. I have a kasha. When I return my shoelaces, I put scotch tape on the outside, not on the inside, but Noach's teva, which was bigger than Titanic, it had it on both sides. What was one thing got to do with the other?
Both in the water.
Shkoyach. What, these are the only two things that were ever in the water? Moshe's box and Noach's ship. I mean, there are thousands of boats in the world. How do you make a boat? Do you put tar on the inside or not? Probably you do. So if you do, what's Rashi's kasha on Noach's teva? Because of Moshe's box? What in the world does Moshe's box got to do with Noach's teva? I mean, this is a serious question. Rashi's bothered by this.
The word teva is used, that's why.
The word teva is used by Moshe? Okay. So all of a sudden, it's because of the word. The word teva, it doesn't matter if the teva is 1 foot by 1 foot or the size of, MetLife Stadium, doesn't matter. Either way, all words that have teva have to have the tar on the inside and the outside. What's a halacha? Okay. Sure. Okay, what's the kasha? Or there's a halacha l'moshe misina. We make a gzeira shav. Rashi has a gzeira shav. It says teva there. Oh, there it has tar on the inside and the outside. I don't know. Ask people who make boats. How do they make boats? Do they put tar on the inside or the? In Tanakh, in Chumash, we mentioned there's only one person called Tzadik, and that is Noach. However, in Tanakh, is there anyone else called a tzaddik? Yosef. Where is Yosef called a tzaddik? In Amos. Koyomar Hashem al shloisha Pishei Yisrael yal arba lo yashivenu al michram ba'kesef tzaddik v'yavyoin ba'avur na'aloyim, because the tzaddik was sold for money. Interesting. Who's the tzaddik? The tzaddik is Yosef. So now we've extended the definition of tzaddik not only to include Noach, but to include Yosef as well. So the question is, what does one have to do to be called a tzaddik? What is the definition of a tzaddik? Is a tzaddik someone who davens a long Shemoneh Esrei? Is a tzaddik someone who fasts a lot? Says the Medrash, Ish tzaddik, al shezon briyosav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know what it takes to be a tzaddik? A tzaddik is someone who feeds people. Shnei b'nei adam nikro tzaddikim. There are two people called tzaddik. Who are they? Al shezanu es habriyos. They fed mankind. Noach fed mankind. After all of life was in that teva. Noach sustained them. V'Yosef shekach ksiv. What does it say by Yosef? Al michram ba'kesav tzaddik. Uksiv boy vayechalkel. What does it say about Yosef? V'Yosef hu hamashbir l'chol am haaretz. So now we're learning a big chiddush. The definition of tzaddik is someone who feeds others, and therefore there are two people in Tanakh called tzaddik: Noach and Yosef. So I was bothered. 1 second. I think there's a third person called tzaddik, and that is Hashem. So where's Hashem called a tzaddik? Ashrei. Tzadik hu Hashem b'chol derachav. Tzadik Hashem b'chol derachav. You know why? Poiseach es yadecha umasbia l'chol chai ratzain. Tzadik Hashem b'chol derachav. Yeah, Hashem also meets the bill. Hashem passes the tzaddik test. He feeds mankind. He's poiseach es yadecha umasbia l'chol chai ratzain. Tzadik Hashem b'chol derachav. This morning Hashem opened up my eyes. L'chayra, there's another person also called a tzaddik. And that is, he's not called a tzaddik in the Tanakh, but Rashi calls him a tzaddik. Which Rashi? Rashi in Parshas Noach. B'teva soishal Moshe, the Rashi number 8, al yidei shal yu amayim tashim, daya b'chayim armi v'fnem zev zechutz. V'oid, kedei shalo yariach oisoi, tzaddik! Oh, Rashi's giving smicha to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why doesn't Rashi say Kedei shel yirech Moshe reach Rashel zafas? All of a sudden Rashi's calling him Oisoi Tzadik. Why is Rashi calling him Tzadik in this context?
Because of Moshe Rabbeinu.
why is he calling him Tzadik? Okay, so you say, why does Moshe meet the bill? Why is Moshe, is it even true? Does Moshe meet the criteria of Tzadik? So you say, yeah, the man, Moshe Rabbeinu was Mechalkel Kal Yisrael in the Midbar. It was in his chus, the man came as chus Moshe. Fine. But why wouldn't Rashi just say Moshe straight out? Why in this context is Rashi referring to Moshe Rabbeinu as Oisai Tzadik? Interesting, Rabbi Isai. As we mentioned before, there are three people who are Matzachin. One was Noach. At the end of Bereshis it says, V'Noach Matzachin B'nei Hashem. One was Yosef. Vayimtza Yosef Chen Be'enav. Yosef found favor in his eyes. And in Parshas Kisisa, Vayomer Moshe al Hashem Re'ei Ata Omer Elai Ha'al Es Amazeh V'Ata Lo Hoidatani Esa Shetishlach Imi V'Ata Amarta Yidaticha V'Shem V'Gam Matzasa Chen Be'enai. That Hashem told Moshe, you have found favor in my eyes. Very interesting. Three people called Tzadik. Three people that were Matzachin. Comes the Chidah, as only the Chidah can, and the Chidah tells us a Davar Nifla in the name of the Arizal. Now, let me start with the following introduction. There is a concept of Gilgulim, which means that a person's neshama could come back to this world for certain tikkunim. Now, where I come from, in the yeshiva that I went, where I've been for the last 25 years, I never heard the word Gilgul mentioned, even one time. In the Olam HaYeshivas, it's not something that's discussed. In fact, I once heard somebody ask Rabbi Victor Miller about Gilgulim, and he said, it's not mentioned in Shas, and therefore we don't talk about it. In fact, there's a Rashash on Gemara. The Rashash on Gemara says, that on the Gemara, that says on the Pasuk, Baruch Ata B'vayecha, Baruch Ata B'tzeisecha, that you will leave this world free of sin the way you came in. And the Rashash says something to the fact of, this is a support of the opinion that says that there are Gilgulim, which implies that there are opinions that say there aren't. And basically, it's a very controversial Rashash. However, this is a concept that is addressed in the Svarim of the Chidah extensively, and the Svarim of the Arizal extensively. And we're going to mention it today. What's the tachlis, what's the tayeles of talking about it? There's one major tayeles, and that is not in terms of worrying about it. A person doesn't live the life, whose Gilgul am I? Well, what do I need to be masakin? You have to follow the Shulchan Aruch, you have to follow the halacha. The biggest tikkun is learn Gemara, learn Musar, do Chesed. However, when a person is aware that the Mesaviv Kol HaSivos, that the Ribono Shel Olam is orchestrating the world, that every detail in the Torah has major meaning. In other words, sometimes a person learns Chumash, says, why is this detail mentioned? Why is this story mentioned? Why is this word here? Why is this Nakuda here? Why is this trup here? And you understand there's a lot of background and secret information. And certain individuals in the Tanakh, this may not be the first time they were here, and they may have tikkunim that maybe they're aware of, maybe they're not aware of, but the Ribono Shel Olam is aware of. It gives a deeper appreciation and understanding for the events that transpire in the Chumash. Okay, Rabbi, with that introduction, the Arizal tells us that the first time a person is in this world, it's called Av. The second time, it's called Toldos. Okay. There's another concept that a person could come back a number of times. There's a concept that the neshama has many chalakim, naran, nefesh, ruach, neshama. And each chelek could be nisgalgel. That being said, the Arizal is megala to us that Noach actually came back to this world 2 times. First time, Yosef HaTzadik. The second time, Moshe Rabbeinu. Says the Chidah, without this Arizal, there is no other way to read the first pasuk in this week's Parsha. Eile Toldos Noach ish Tzadik Tamim Haya B'Doyroisav. Someone who comes back as a Gilgul is called a Ben. The first time you're called an Av. Who was Noach? He was Nisgalgal, but Yosef HaTzadik, and then Moshe Rabbeinu. So you read the pasuk like this. We have to go back to the end of Bereshis. Hashem said, I'm going to destroy man. But Noach is Matzachein. The question is, Matzachein? This is God we're speaking about. Why is Noach Matzachein? Oh, you know why? Eile Toldos. Because he has Toldos. Toldos are the Gilgal. The Av is the first time, Toldos are the next 2 times. He has Toldos. How many? Noach. 2 Toldos. What are they? Number 1 is Tzadik. The first Tolda, the first Gilgal is he came back as a Tzadik. Who's the Tzadik? Only one other person called Tzadik. Yosef. Number 2, he came back as the perfection of mankind. Tamim. Moshe Rabbeinu. How many times? B'doiraisav. 2 different generations. Says the Chidah, that's how we understand the first pasuk in Parshas Noach. In other words, you go to the end of Bereshis. The end of Bereshis is V'Noach Matzachin B'nei Hashem. Noach found favor in God's eyes. Now, what do you have to do to find favor in God's eyes? So the Torah says it's not a matter of what he did. It's a matter of what he was. Eile Toldos. These are his Gilgulim. How many were there? Noach. What were they? Ish Tzadik is Yosef HaTzadik. Tamim is Moshe Rabbeinu. How many times? B'doiraisa. So now the question is, why did he have to come back twice? So comes Ramami Pano, Rabbi Menachem Azariah of Pano, one of the greatest of the Mekubalim. He was a Talmud of Rabbi Yisrael Saruk. First he was a Talmud of the Ramak, but then Rabbi Yisrael Saruk taught him the traditions of the Arizal. He's buried in Mantoa. And the Ramami Pano wrote a Sefer Gogulei Neshamas, and he says as follows, look at number 14. One of Noach's infractions was he drank wine, and he became drunk, and he became revealed in his tent. And his tikkun was through Yosef HaTzadik, because Chazal tell us that until Yosef saw his brothers, he did not drink yayin. That's why the pasuk says that Vayishkeru imai, they drank with Yosef, but for those years that until they came in contact with Yosef, Yosef did not drink. Why wasn't he drinking? That was a tikkun for the chait of Noach, who was Vayachal Noach Ish Adam Vayita Karem. Says Ramah number 14. Noach Nishkar v'Nisgala b'Toich Ahaloi Nisgan v'Yosef Shaloi Shasa Yayin. Okay. Let's move on in the Parsha. Vayoled Noach Shloi Shavanim. Es Shem, Es Cham, v'Yes Yafes. He had 3 children. Who cares? Why do I need to know how many kids he had? When you meet somebody, hey, what's your name and how many children do you have? It's not your business. Why is the Torah telling us that Noach had 3 children? Interesting. Very interesting. Says the Arizal, a davar nifla. Says the Arizal, Yosef has a numerical value of what?
3 times.
What is Yosef? Yud is 10, Vav is 6, Samach is 60, Pei is 80, 156. That is why. What's the significance of 156? It's 6 times Yud K, Vav K. You know, there's a machlokes. Which is the most chashuv aliyah? Is it Shalishi or is it Shishi? So the Chassam Sofer brings down in a tshuva, and the way to remember it, it's tshuva 66, that the more important aliyah is the 6th aliyah. Why? Keneged Yosef HaTzadik. Because Yosef is 6 times 26. Yosef is 6 times the name of Hashem. By the way, what is 7 times 26? 182. It's after Yom Tov still, so a little. 182. Yaakov is 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. What, you? Me too. All right. 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. Right? 182. And Yitzchak is 208. 8 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. All the others are, it goes 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Yosef is 6. Yaakov is 7. Yitzchak is 8. What's 156? That's Yosef. Ben is 52. Plus Ben is 104. Plus Ben is 156. Yosef was the Gilgal of Noach. Noach had Ben. 3 Bens. Yosef HaTzadik. That's the significance of Vayoled Noach Shloisha Banim Hashem Eschami Esyafes. The 3 Bens are Oile to Yosef. It's a remez to Yosef HaTzadik. Says the Arizal in the Shar HaPsukim. Well, we move on, Rabbi Say. Very interesting thing. Somebody asked me the Shabbos. It says that when Noach was born, Vayoled Bein, and Vayikra Shmai Noach Leimar, they named him Noach. Why? Because he invented the plow. Now, I don't know about you, but there's no way he invented the plow the day he was born. Like he came out with a plow. What? You know, the doctor said, I don't know, we're not sure what this one is. What was on the first one? He came out with a plow? It probably took him some time till he invented the plow. So what did they name him until? What? John Doe?
John Deere.
Deere. What was his name before he invented the plow? So the Abarbanel says, well, all the names were Beruach HaKodesh, Benavua of Al Shem, what they would eventually do. Interestingly, the Chida writes, look at number 16, Noach nisyare aviv likroi lo shem be'eslei dasai. His father was scared to call him a name when he was born, until he grew up, because there are a lot of klipos around. We're not going to get into exactly what klipos are. Just stay away from them. Because the more revealed something is, the more ayin hara rules over it. So the Arizal has a tremendous diuk. If you have a Chumash in front of you, it's kedai to take notice, to observe this. At the end of Parshas, it lists all the generations of mankind. It says, Vayichi Adam, Vayoled Eshes, Vayichi Shes, Vayoled Enosh, Vayichi Enosh, Vayoled Kenan, Vayichi Kenan, Vayoled Mahalalel, Vayichi Mahalalel, Vayoled Yared, Vayichi Yared, Vayoled Chanoch, Vayoled Chanoch, Vayoled Mesushalach, Vayichi Mesushach, Vayoled Lamech, Vayichi Lamech. Doesn't say Vayoled Noach. Vayoled Bein. Why doesn't it say his name? Why does it say Vayoled Bein? Says the Chida, quoting the Arizal. You know why? Because he didn't have a name. The kid was not given a name to begin with. What was he called? Nothing. Rabbeinu Ha'ari, that's what the Arizal says. But, Uvayalkot, says the Chida, his father called him Yenachem. Any Menachems here?
I did.
What? Menachem. Any Yenachems here?
None.
I didn't think so. He was called Yenachem, Mesushelach called him Noach. Why was he called Yenachem? Because Yenachem is a Rashi Tevis, Yosef, Noach, Moshe. Yenachem, Yosef, Noach, Moshe. Okay, now fasten your seatbelts for this one. Eile, Toldois, Noach. What's the Gematria of Yosef? So we said Yosef is 3 times Ben, 156. What's the Gematria of Moshe? 345. What's 156 and 345? 345 and 156. What is it?
501.
501. Very good. That's great. Terrific. 501. The word Asher is 501. Yeah? Eile Toldois Noach. Rashi Tevis. Aleph, Taf, Nun. Gematria 501. Eile Toldois Noach. Aleph, Taf, Nun. 501. What's 501? Yosef and Moshe. Oh, that's why Paro said, Mi Hashem, Asher Eshma, B'koilai. Me. You know what Paro was saying? I'm not going to listen to Hashem until I see me, Moshe, Yosef. Asher, then I'll have 501 together, and then I will listen to, okay. Mar Rabbi, what was the sin of Noach? Well, we have in Sefer Yeshaya, Parak Nun Daled, Pasuk Tes, from this week's Haftarah. Ki mei Noach zois li asher nishbahati me'avor mei Noach. What is the Mabel called? Mei Noach, the waters of Noach. Like, why are we throwing Noach under the bus? We're saying, the waters of the Mabel, they're Noach's waters. What do you want from the poor guy? He's a great guy. He's a Tzadik. He's a Tamim. He's Matzachein. He did his best. He saved the grasshoppers. He saved the whales. Even the liberals would have liked Noach. Can you imagine? He's the only guy that he has bipartisan popularity. Why are we calling the Mabel Mei Noach? So the Zohar says that what? That his infraction was he should have davened for them and he should have reprimanded them. He should have been Meichiach them, he should have given them Musar, and he should have davened for them. In other words, when Hashem said, I'm going to wipe out mankind and create a new world from you, he said, no, don't wipe out mankind. Keep mankind. Let the world continue from them. Who do we find was offered a similar gesture where God said, you know what, I'm going to wipe everyone out and make a new nation from you? Moshe. Hashem told Moshe that, you know what, Achaloisim Karaga, and I'll make a new nation from you. And what did Moshe say? Moshe said, no. If you destroy a Klal Yisrael, Mecheni na. Says Arizal, the Oisios Mecheni na, Mei Noach. The word Mecheni is Mei Noach. In other words, what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying was, I'm going to be Mesakein the Ched of Mei Noach. The reason why Noach was held accountable for the sin, for the waters of the Mabel, is because A, Noach did not reprimand them. B, Noach was not mispalo for them. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm not going to make the same mistake. The first tzaddik, the first person who was matzachein, he had a small infraction. He wasn't mispalel, he wasn't moichiach. But me, v'im if you don't bear their sin, mecheini na, says Arizal Likutei Torah number 18, about 4 lines from the end, v'alkein amar, mecheini na, lashoin michoy. Mecheni is a lashon of emche, the same lashon that it says by the Mabel. Moshe Rabbeinu says, if you wipe them out, if you destroy them, mecheni na, wipe me out too. In other words, what's Moshe Rabbeinu saying? Listen carefully. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying that if you destroy Klal Yisrael now, then you should have just wiped me out with the Mabel. Right? In other words, why did you save Noach from the Mabel? Not because he deserved it, because of the Noach, because I would come out from him. But if you destroy Klal Yisrael now, and I can't rectify the sin of Klal Yisrael, then you should have wiped me out at the Mabel. Mecheni na, I would have liked to be emche, you should have dissolved me. So I would like to suggest, it says in one of these Maramakaimais, the Gemara asks, Moshe menat Torah minayin, where is there a remes to Moshe? In other words, where do we find that Moshe Rabbeinu, already back in time, is sort of offering a protection that even though Noach didn't get it right, but he's promising that the second time around, he's not going to allow a Mabel to happen. The pasuk is, Shbeshegam hu basar, v'hayu yamav me'av esim shana. In other words, had it not been for the Mabel, had it not been for Moshe Rabbeinu, then this is something that would have repeated itself. The remes to Moshe Rabbeinu is in the pasuk where Moshe Rabbeinu is sort of rearing his head and he's saying, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm not going to let this happen again. I'm not going to allow this to occur. The remes to Moshe Rabbeinu is in the waters of the Mabel, because Moshe Rabbeinu says, the first time around Noach made a mistake, he said, Mechenina. He said, it was Mei Noach. I'm going to correct that. I'm going to say Mechenina. So Marav Rabbi Sai.
Didn't Hashem say, I'll never do it again? I don't understand that. According to the Torah, Hashem said he'll never do this again.
Because maybe Hashem realized that we would have the likes of a Moshe Rabbeinu to be Maspala and to be Meichiach.
Moshe wasn't discussing the entire world. He was just discussing
Israel.
But Adam, right? Atem Kriyim Adam, ve'in Ovdei Koichavim Kriyim Adam. The Klal Yisrael became the Adam of the original intent of creation. So I want to suggest.
Mecheni na
Yeah.
is Mei Noach. Why
Yeah.
the na? What's the na stand for?
Nice, בבקשה.
Please.
מכני, just take מכני.
Do you want to know what the word "na" stands for? Too many secrets I can't reveal on one share.
It's a
Usually there's
Hear this?
I'll refer you to the Shiur of Parshas Achrimais. Na usually refers to Eliyahu Hanavi, and Na is Nadav and Avihu. But how that fits in over here? Okay, Rabbi says, I want to suggest as follows. So Rashi's bothered by a big question. You know, here you have a mother, and the mother has this little kid, and the kid's life is in jeopardy. So I don't know about you, but I don't think it's a good idea to take the kid and put him in a box and put him in a river. You're better off taking the kid, putting him in a box, and putting him at somebody else's doorstep. What in the world is Yocheved doing? Imagine you hear on the news, there's a woman who took her little kid, put him in a box, and this kid flowing down the Mississippi River. What was Yocheved thinking? Why did she think by putting this kid in the box, she would save the kid? It's not a good idea. Not a good idea. But maybe it's interesting that when Hashem turns to Noach and he says, Noach, I'm going to save you. Ki oischa ra'isi tzadik bedar. What's the next word? Ki oischa ra'isi tzadik bedar hazeh. Bedar hazeh. Hazeh is what? Gematria? Hazeh? 17. There's a sefer Kisvoy Sa'efoid who says, who came 17 generations after Noach? From Noach till Avram was 10. From Avram till Moshe 7. Who came 17 generations from Noach? Moshe Rabbeinu. When Hashem was telling Noach, you know why I am saving you? Ki oischa ra'isi tzadik b'dar hazeh. Because I see what's going to happen 17 generations from now. There'll be a Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore Hashem says, I'm going to save you in the zchus of Moshe Rabbeinu, who transforms, according to the Arizal, the Mein Noach into Mechenina. So Yocheved.
I like that.
So Yocheved is a smart woman. She says, hey, this kid is 17 generations from Noach. Maybe he's the kid who's going to be Mesake in the main Noach, the waters of Noach, and to Mechenina. So she says, let me put her in the Teva. This is his manner of Hatzalah. The same way Hashem saved his forebear in the Zechus of the 17th generation. Maybe this is the kid that will be saved and will correct the sin of Noach. So what does it say when Moshe Rabbeinu was born? It says the Sefer Shvila Pinchas. Vayar oisai ki toiv. Toiv is 17. Oh, she saw he's number 17. 17th generation. So she took him, she put him in the back. So Rashi, Rebbeinu Shalom, Rashi says, if Yocheved was trying to use the trick of the Teva of Noach, we know that by the Teva of Noach, there was tar on the inside and tar on the outside. It's not that Rashi's bothered that he has a Gzeira Shava. When you make a box, you have to put tar. No, you don't always have to put tar in boxes. You don't have to put tar when you put your shoes in your box at home. Don't put tar inside. Don't say Rashi says you should really put tar. No, Rashi's kasha is that we know that the reason why Yocheved was saving this individual is because he's Tzadik number 2. He's Matzachei number 2. He's the 17th generation. She's trying to utilize the concept of the Teva that Noach used. If you're trying to utilize the Chiddush of the Teva, then you need tar on the inside, you need tar on the outside. So Rashi says, no, there's a reason. Look, just like she didn't need 300 amos, so she didn't need tar on the inside. And first of all, he's a bigger tzaddik. He's a bigger tzaddik. Why? Because he's going to be Mesake in the Chet. But Hashem opened up my eyes. I never realized, why in this context does Rashi refer to him as the tzaddik? Because the whole kasha of Rashi was predicated on the fact that he is the tikkun for the Noachish tzaddik. He's in the chain of tzaddik, tzaddik, tzaddik. Chen. That is why Rashi in this context refers to him not as Moshe. Just as Moshe is not a kasha one box from the other. It's the kasha of this is how God saves the tzaddik, through the teva. And therefore in this context Rashi refers to him as Oisai tzaddik. Hafla fella. Interesting, it comes out that we know, just point out, that when Klal Yisrael comes out of Mitzrayim, So Moshe Rabbeinu has a big mitzvah to do. Chazal say, Chacham lev yikach mitzvos. And what's the big mitzvah? The big mitzvah is the Atzmos Yosef. Now, why is Moshe taking the bones of Yosef? There are a lot of other Chashuva Yidden out there. What about Aaron HaKohen? They say Aaron's a Kohen. Kalev ben Yefuneh, Yoshua ben Nun. Look, Moshe is a leader. He could delegate the job. Right? Why doesn't he give the job to, I'm sure if Moshe Rabbeinu would have said, Mi Lashem Elai, who wants to take Yosef's bones? He could have given one bone to 248 people. You can't trust just anybody with your own bones. I mean, it's your bones. So Moshe Rabbeinu knows it's Noach, Moshe, Yosef. Moshe Rabbeinu is busy with Ba'atzmos Yosef, maybe. Interesting, there's another Arizal. And Arizal writes very famously that the generation of the flood received their tikkun in Mitzrayim. And the Arizal, this is something we've discussed a number of times. Actually, the Arizal says the generation of Enosh, the generation of the Mabul, the generation of Sodom, the generation of Haflaga, they all came back in Mitzrayim. But the Arizal says in the Shar Psukim that what was the chait of the Dar HaMabul? They were choite, the Arizal says in number 27, b'hashchasas zera. And that's why they were punished in the Mabul, b'mayim roischim. So a tikkun for that is they came back in the generation of Mitzrayim, and that is why there was a gzeira of kol haben hayiloid hayaoira tashlichuhu. Why only the ben and not the bas? Because the chait was hashkas hazara, and therefore it was only the ben and not the bas that were punished, and they were punished b'mayim. That was a tikkun for the dar hamabel. And who was masaking them? It was Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was masaking them. How's that? Because the chait of the Dar HaMabul was put on the shoulders of Noach. A, he didn't daven for them. B, he didn't reprimand them. But Moshe Rabbeinu, number one, was the one who was mispalel on Klal Yisrael. He said, "V'emayin mecheni na misifracha." And Moshe Rabbeinu was moichiach Klal Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who gave the Torah to Klal Yisrael. So says the Sefer Shvilei Pinchas, Hashem comes to Moshe and he says, Moshe, I have a great job for you. What's the job? I want you to give the Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu uses the classic Jewish response. I'm not a speaker. I'm not a speaker. Everybody loves to speak. Everybody knows they love to speak. But I'm not a speaker. So Hashem said, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ki kvad peh, u kvad lashon. I'm not a speaker. But Moshe Rabbeinu says, not today, right? Gam mitol, not yesterday. Gam mishulshan, not the day before. Gam meyoz daber chalavecha. From the very first time you spoke to me, I'm not a speaker. What do you mean from the first time you spoke to me? This is their first encounter. Hashem never said a word to Moshe Rabbeinu before this. What does Moshe Rabbeinu mean? I'm not a speaker, not today, not yesterday, not the day before, not the first time it's the first time you ever met Hashem. What's he talking about yesterday? So Hashem comes to Moshe and says, I want you to take Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu says, you know me, I'm not a speaker, not today, and not yesterday when I was Noach, and you told me to go into the Teva, and I wasn't a speaker back then because I didn't daven, I didn't reprimand the people. I was never a speaker. Not now and not back then. Gam mitmal, not even in times of Noach. Remember? I'm the main Noach guy. Hashem said, exactly. You need to correct that. Says Hashem, you know I want you to take them out of Mitzrayim? You know how you're going to correct the Dar HaMabul? You're going to be the one to teach them the Torah. You're going to be the one to be mispalo for them. And you're going to transform Mei Noach into Mecheni Na. I'm not giving you the job because you were a speaker. I'm giving you the job because you weren't a speaker, and now you're going to become one. And you're going to be the one to be mispalo for them. And you're going to be the one to be moichiach them. Interesting, Rabbi Sai. You see, a davar hafla of a fella. And that is, V'noyach matzachein be'enei Hashem. And we find Moshe Rabbeinu as matzachein be'enei Hashem. How do you find chen be'enei Hashem? So you think, how do you find chen be'enei Adam? So you think the best way to find chen be'enei Adam is a guy rolls in, most of the time you say, oh, gewaldig, oh, it's so nice that you decided to join us in shul this morning. It's wonderful that you made an effort to catch the last 10 minutes. And you make the guy feel good, even though the guy mizman kriyishman, he mizman tefillah. But if I'm going to tell him, it would be really wonderful if you came 9 o'clock, the guy's going to hate your guts. He's not going to like you, and you'll never find chen in his eyes. Says the Medrash, no, just the opposite. The Medrash says, look at number 31, Davar Acher, on the words, Eile Hadvarim, Zeh Sha'amar HaKosef, Moichiach Adam Acharai, one who rebukes people to follow me, chen yimtza, he'll find chen, mimachlik lashon, more than if you just sweet talk them. You should know, if you sweet talk people, they're not going to like you. If you rebuke them, maybe, then you got a fighting chance. So since they're not going to like you anyway, you might as well be moichiach them, maybe they'll like you. But the Medrash is saying, how is one matzah chen b'nei Hashem? If you rebuke them, l'shem shamay, now, you'll say, I tried it doesn't work. Oh, you have to know how to do it. You have to know how to do it. So says the Medrash, Rab Pinchas b'shem Rab Chama bar Chanina Amar, who is the Moichiach? Moshe. Who's the Adam? Klal Yisrael. Who is Acharai? Acharai means HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chen Yimtza. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. V'gam matzah chen b'einai. I v'noyach matzah chen b'einai Hashem. Says the Chidah, you have to know how to read the pasuk. V'noyach matzah chen b'einai Hashem. Why? Because Eila told us. He corrected himself. How many times? Noach. 2 times. Yosef and Moshe. Who were they? Number 1 was the Ish Tzadik. He came back as Yosef, according to the Ramah Mipano. He was Masake in his Shichros. And the second time, Tamim. How do I see this? Eila told us, Noach, Rashi Tevos 501. Gematria Yosef and Moshe Rabbeinu. So here we have, where is the remes to Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Menatar Minayin b'Shagam Hu Basa. Now we understand the secret of Rashi. Rashi is bothered by Akasha, the contradiction between the 2 boxes. Why these 2 boxes? Because these are the 2 individuals. They were saved 2 times. Rashi understands it's not just boxes. It's a matter of saving Oisoi Tzadik. So there were 3 tzaddikim. There was Noach, there was Yosef, and of course it was the Oisoi Tzadik Moshe Rabbeinu, who was Zoichet V'Masakein, the infraction of Noach, and he made it Mechenina Mesifracha, and therefore we're Zoichet to the tikkun of the Mei Noach. Thank you everyone for coming. We look forward to a very exciting Zman ahead of us. Immerse Hashem.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.